So, Tino, say hi. So welcome to our 5 diet myths. These are things that derail weight loss and just general health. And these are things that like everybody believes that they should be doing. We once believed these, and either because people told us that we were supposed to believe this, or maybe at one point even science told us we were supposed to believe this, and things have changed. And we see a lot of people come into our office with these questions or beliefs, and it's hard to change or hard to believe. So we just want to reiterate and go over what those are. You're here. And so let's just really make the most of it. Let's really create and honor the space for you guys to learn. We really think you deserve it. You made it this far. So we know your time is really valuable. So we're going to kind of just crank through this as quickly as we can. And if you guys have any questions, please use this chat box. It's probably at the bottom of your screen. And so you can just type in. I've got another screen here where I can see your chats. So if you have questions, if it's related to the content, we'll try to work it in. Otherwise, we'll definitely address it at the end. So tell us, if you can write in the chat box, like what diets have you tried before? What diets have you tried before?
Let's see. I have tried the good old fashioned restriction and count everything. That I did that. And I mean, I don't necessarily count it as like, I didn't do it for weight loss, but I was a vegetarian for a long time. Let's see. I don't think I did. I never did Weight Watchers or anything like that. And I've done a cleanse.
Did you do that for weight loss or for health, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both, because it was an Ayurvedic cleanse. So it was sort of like a reboot. It was like a post baby thing. My body was just still, it took a long time for it to get back to normal. By normal, I meant just like feeling like a human, not necessarily a weight issue. So
and so I I have tried so many things too, but
my favorite is that you did the master cleanse.
So
for 3 days. But
when I was a teenager, I really didn't even know what calories were until high school. Like I just was one of those lucky. I was really active, and so I never thought about it. I ate whatever I wanted. I did not eat well. And then, of course, getting to know other girls around me and things, it's like you start being aware of those things. And I led a very restrictive diet, kind of unintentionally, as a high schooler. And then in college, I mean, God knows I'd drink Slim Fast shakes.
I did those in high school.
And would have bars for dinner. I would count. I had like a calorie counter app, those kinds of things. Oh God, like.
An app? They didn't even have phones.
Well, not an app, but it was like a thing that you logged in.
Oh, God, I'm like, you didn't even have phones.
You're like, was that recently? No, it wasn't.
How was that possible?
It was at least 10 years ago, so yeah, it probably wasn't an app. But and then I don't know. So
I see Jen says
keto, Weight Watchers,
Leap MRT. Woo. And then so many. So are you on, Jen? Are you still on any of those diets or things that you've tried?
Yeah,
I'd like to know.
I mean, I think we've all, I would say, if I had to guess, I would say 100% of women, and probably most people.
Maybe 99%.
99% of women, and probably men have been on a diet at some point. Or maybe if you even haven't been on a diet, you might be saying to yourself, I should be on a diet. So let's talk about, do you know why there are so many diets out there?
Why?
I mean, there's a couple of answers here. The biggest reason is like, obviously all of our bodies are different. So not one thing works for everyone. And then there's this diet.
So everybody has their magic pill.
Right. So that actually does leave room for the industry to come in and say, well, we have found the answer.
Right.
And they unleash something which is usually either restrictive of a common allergen. So that is really easy. Or the pills are basically like methamphetamines or, just like a flush of nutrients that usually helps somebody somewhere out there lose a little bit of weight.
Because it's like turning on a metabolic process or, just something.
So they're like the lucky ones that they needed that specific nutrient. So it worked for them, but that doesn't mean it works for everyone.
No, because we're all so different.
And so, we just, no. So you're in the right place if you've been on a diet or try to cleanse for weight loss. And you're also in the right place if you really want to try to avoid these common mistakes that derail weight loss and general health. And maybe you also have a hunch that whatever you've been doing is not the way that you want to continue doing things. And maybe there's a different way to go about it. And so we're going to cover, what are these 5 myths today, the reasons why they derail weight loss. So we're actually going to get into a little bit of depth. This isn't like clickbait. Like we're not just here to, gloss over some stuff and send you off confused. We're really going to educate you and give you some helpful tips along the way.
These are just some of the many.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the many.
There's a million. I've heard crazy things, which if we have time, maybe we'll go over those later. Also at the end, after we've given you a ton of education, if you like what you hear, you're welcome to stay to learn about this offer that we have that's with our e-course. Yeah, that starts today. So really quickly, I'm Jessica.
I'm Beth.
And Beth is a registered dietitian, and we're both eating psychology coaches. We did the same program, but we also went to culinary school.
That's where we met.
And you can see I'm kind of in the middle on the left, and that's Beth. You can't really see her face from behind.
Right. It turns out we didn't take very many pictures of people during culinary school. All of our photos are of food.
Yeah. So that was a good time, and we became fast friends. So we started doing fun things, and this is us at a Snoop Dogg concert, and here we are in Cabo. We love planning vacations and retreats and stuff like that. So,
we're really good at planning vacations and retreats.
So we talked a little bit about what we've tried. If we were to say we've tried it all, we've said, everything, obviously that's not totally true.
That's not true for me.
Yeah. So. But it did click at some point. We started to learn how to think a little bit differently, and we started living differently. And, if you want to make a change, you have to do something different.
Yeah, we all have to have our own personal aha moment as to when we stop the cycle. So when is it that when or what is going to be I can't do this anymore thinking.
Yeah.
And by this anymore, I mean like all the dieting, the self-hate, like all that jazz.
Yeah, actually, I was even thinking today, I was like, sometimes people ask us basically to shame them or bully them into dieting, and we're like, but that's not right. We don't want to. We're not here to shame anyone or to to perpetuate this like negative self stuff. And so that has just been wired into like that's the only way that I can make it change.
Yeah, they will not show up for an appointment, or like, oh, I didn't want to come because blah, blah. And so they have all these like things and they're like, well, I need for you to, hold me accountable. And it's like, they want to be held accountable without like I don't know. It's just such a weird dynamic that some people have with what they believe coming to a nutritionist is all about.
And that's what the diet industry has created. This is the conversation and the language and the emotions that this whole industry has created for us. And so our mission to turn this around is a really big one.
Yeah.
But because we've done it, we think it can be done, and we think you can do it too.
Yeah.
So did you know that diets are the only thing that we buy that when they fail, we just keep buying more.
Just a different one.
Can you imagine?
Or maybe the same one, and maybe it'll work the next time because I just wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And so I just am not good enough. So it must be me and not this diet.
Yeah. Can you imagine if you bought a car and it just kept breaking down, and then you bought the same car over and over again?
Yeah.
That would be insane, right?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of other cars.
Yeah.
So let's stop doing this with diets. So we work really hard to share this stuff. We really believe in, our mission and what we're doing. And so wherever we can, whoever will listen to us, we've been featured in these wonderful publications. And so, hopefully it's getting out there. So let's do this. Let's start with the 5 myths that we are going to break down for you.
Break them down.
So the first one is calories are the enemy.
Oh, this one keeps on keeping on, this calorie one.
Yeah. Even people that we've worked with for a long period of time.
They're like, I just need to go back to counting calories after everything we've told them and all the hard work that they've done and that we've shared with them. They're like, I still just need to count calories. And it's a little bit mind-boggling to me.
The reason why we don't love this is, for one, counting calories is really unsustainable.
Yeah.
So this perpetuates that I'm on or off a diet because yes, you can count calories, which is an easy way to know what you're consuming, and then maybe it works for a little bit of time, but eventually you're like, I got tired of counting calories, so now you no longer count, and
then when you're being bad again, you start counting calories again to keep you on track, and then you're good by counting the calories, and then you go off track. And then like we have those meals and we go to a party and we don't want to count those calories. So we just leave them cheating, we just leave them off.
Right. And then we're like, what's happening?
What's going on?
Yeah. So it's not creating an environment for being mindful.
Yeah.
So not all calories are actually created equal, right?
No.
So 50 calories of candy versus 50 calories of vegetables are going to have a totally different effect on your body and your hormones and the way that you feel and the way that you even digest and assimilate nutrients. And so, you know, I think counting calories is just not always, it's not the end all be all.
No,
you know,
it is not the end all be all.
You also burn calories and you use energy differently.
Yeah.
So
and this can be because one, your genetic makeup, your gut microbiome, you know, stress factors, metabolic states that you're in, like, you know, like, are you growing, you know, as a person, like, are you in a disease state? So all of these things affect how we burn calories. And I'll just tell you real quick, well, the reason how we even came up with these calories is they took food and they put it into this metal, you know, thing, and then they catch it on fire and they see how much energy is released. And then we have to assume that our body is going to do the exact same thing as that.
Right.
With food and in our everyday lifestyle. Yeah. It's really bizarre.
Yeah. So. And so my digestive fire might burn slightly different than hers. Yeah. And it can swap and be different at different times. And so it's just not an end all be all. If I eat 100 calories, that it's actually even 100 calories.
Right.
No.
It's like the 100-calorie snack pack.
Yeah.
You know, those little things.
Which you've never been full from.
Oh, no. It's ridiculous.
So this comes to my next point, which is believing that calories are the enemy. It promotes unhealthy behavior.
Right. It promotes low-level stress, which then low-level stress, not only, it will actually increase weight because you've got low-level stress hormones that are causing cortisol and adrenaline and everything to be released into your body, which then sets off inflammation, which then you hold on to weight.
Well, in my mind too, I was thinking like we start using like diet soda or, you know, like if you're on Weight Watchers, you're like, oh, well, this diet Cool Whip is no calories and no points. So I can eat as much of it as I want. And that is not truth. And so it just kind of promotes the inching around the rules, right? Instead of truly facing like what is healthy for me and what is good for me. And we're going to just go ahead and say that is hard. It requires facing yourself in different ways, which nobody really wants to do. But if you do it, you never have to count calories again.
It also leads to over restricting calories, which we were just talking about, which leads to blood sugar imbalances, so hypoglycemia, or you go through the blood sugar roller coaster, so the highs and the lows, which causes lots of hormonal and neurotransmitter problems, nutrient deficiencies, because typically we're not choosing foods that are always full of full nutrition, which would include essential fatty acids and sometimes proteins. You'll get low energy from all these blood sugar imbalances and a lack of nutrient deficiencies because energy requires carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and vitamins and minerals. Without those, and somewhere in there, energy gets slowed down, which means it slows down all of metabolism, and which then leads to weight holding.
Yeah. So the thing that you think is going to help you lose weight eventually is going to cause you to hold on to weight. And so that's why a lot of times people are like, God, I've been dieting my whole life and I'm still overweight or I'm not losing weight. And it's because your body does not have the safety mechanisms to know well, we have what we need.
Right.
Especially if we're eating those diet foods instead of real foods, we're not getting the nutrients that we need.
Yeah. It's kind of it's like, oh, well, we're not getting what we really need. We're not getting enough calories. So we need to hold on to what we have. And so this is a very old biological process that we have had since the beginning of time. So, and it still exists within us because it is still a possibility that we could go without food and we would need to hold on to our fat stores to burn for energy. So stop starving yourself.
Yeah. For example, when Beth was doing boot camp and was the most ripped that I've ever seen her, she was eating the most amount of food I've ever seen anyone eat. And it's because she was burning so quickly, you know, but then there's states where oh, well, maybe I haven't been moving my body as much and therefore I don't need that abundance of energy. So I'm going to eat a little bit less, but I still have to eat food to maintain my body.
Yeah.
So Okay, so here's a quick question, because I know maybe someone out there is going to ask this, especially if you are familiar with the keto diet, right? So what about intermittent fasting? Can that work?
Yes, it can. Assuming that you're not too far gone in hypoglycemia state. So it can reboot hypoglycemia and blood sugar balance, but it needs to be done carefully. So I always recommend don't just go into it on your own. Do it with somebody that is familiar with intermittent fasting, because of the different things that can happen. So, but the thing about intermittent fasting is that you still have to get in your calories and your nutrient dense food within the eating window. So the eating window is usually 8 to 10 hours, instead of usually most of us are eating over a course of 12 and sometimes even 14 hours. So you're flip-flopping that and you're not eating. So essentially, say you stop eating dinner at like 7 p.m. and then you don't eat again for another, 14, and some people push it to 16 hours. And so then you have the rest of those hours to get all of those things in that your body needs. And so,
which is hard to do, because if you do decide to take our e-course, you'll see how much food is actually required just for like a regular person on a regular day. Yeah. It's kind of a lot.
And it does work. So intermittent fasting can work to help, fix some metabolic diseases. It can, restart the microbiome. So there is some times and places for intermittent fasting, but in general, if you can go, about 12, 13 hours, which is basically overnight plus a little bit, then a lot of, that is enough to kind of clean up all the debris and let the body heal and process.
Yeah. So this isn't an excuse to skip meals. You still have to eat if you're going to attempt this method. Yeah. Here's myth number 2. Diet foods are healthy. So we kind of touched on this with myth number 1, right? But so many people believe, like, if it has a label on it of any kind, low fat, fat-free, even things like vegan or gluten-free or all natural.
Paleo.
Or like Whole30 approved, I mean, we're not saying that those things are necessarily unhealthy, but a label does not mean that it's healthy.
What was the one we saw last week when we went to the store together? We saw like this bacon that was not
it was like a turkey. It was weird.
It wasn't a turkey bacon. It was like a pork
It was
bacon.
Pork bacon, but it wasn't bacon.
Like real bacon. It was like basically
they took pork shoulder and then formed it into
bacon, and it was paleo and Whole30 approved.
I'm just curious. We were very curious why someone would choose that if they're eating pork. Anyway, we digress.
But anyways, that is how, these things can happen.
Yeah. So. And I think people, if they see calorie-free specifically or sugar-free.
Oh, sugar-free. My mother-in-law was the queen of this one, sugar-free. I took a number of go-rounds to explain to her, because really when we started digging through her cabinet, that all the sugar-free stuff was literally nothing. One product was like a cheesecake mix that was in her cabinet, not in the refrigerator, in her cabinet, and it was a powder, and it was nothing that was actual food.
Right. It's basically just chemicals.
Yeah, it was. So we talked about that, and just let me throw it away.
Awesome. Yeah. That comes to this point, which is your body needs real food.
Yeah.
So no, you can't sustain off calorie-free, sugar-free foods.
Nope.
There's no nutrition in that. And it will go back to the next thing, which is you're going to end up gaining weight or becoming sick from some kind of nutrient deficiency. And I used to think that nutrient deficiencies and, some of these more severe symptoms were like when people are like truly in a disordered way of eating.
Right.
But as we've seen, it really can be just minor. It's like minor choices over a long time. So if you've been doing this since high school or since college, and now you're in your 30s or older, you can absolutely rack up some major deficiencies and issues, within years.
Yeah. So again, what I said before is that the metabolic processes, which is what creates energy. So your little mitochondria needs food. And the only way it can do that is to create energy and to keep inflammation down, which then sets off a whole host of, metabolic processes in your body. The only way this works is that if you get nutrients from food, proteins, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, minerals, plus phytochemicals, which is all like the colors and stuff, which is why we can't just drink Soylent, because Soylent doesn't have all these beautiful phytochemicals and all these synergistic effects that food has. Like, we don't know everything that food can do when combined together inside of our body. We're starting to get an idea of it, but it's just so complex between, what happens in plants between phytonutrients and nutrients, like vitamins and minerals, and what they do inside of our body. There is so much interaction that you can't really replace that with diet food or, supplements or, things like Soylent and Slim Fast shakes and stuff like that.
You also need fiber.
Yeah, fiber is absolutely important. I know there's a couple of bowel disorders that that need lower fiber, but our microbiome requires fiber. And so without a healthy microbiome, we don't have a healthy body because of how it communicates with the rest of it. And you'll learn all about that in our course.
So we need to stop fighting food and start embracing it. And we need to stop punishing our bodies and start providing for them.
Yes.
So if we slow down and enjoy, then we actually can get the results that we're looking for, and even sooner than expected.
That feels good.
It does feel good.
Thanks. I feel better.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's myth number 3. Carbs are bad.
Carbs are not bad.
Carbs are energy.
Yes. That's how we create ATP.
So veggies, legumes, fruit, dairy, and nuts are carbs. Basically anything that is not fat or protein are carbs, right?
Right.
So, even if you're trying to be mindful of carbs or you're on a lower carb diet, foods such as vegetables, legumes, fruit, and nuts, not necessarily dairy. But these are things that are part of a wholesome, very healthy diet that is fiber rich, right?
Right.
Let's go back to this really quick.
Yeah.
So you did say carbs feed energy.
Yeah. So we have these, and I'm going to say it again. I'm sorry. I'm like going on science nerd, rant here, but, in order to create that energy cycle, we break down carbohydrate chains into these smaller and smaller carbons. And when we burn carbons is what creates the energy cycle. And so we can do that with proteins. They come in at certain points, and then we do that directly through carbohydrates and fats, and then they come together and they go through this little thing called the Krebs cycle. So I don't know if anybody remembers the Krebs cycle from high school or college biology, but it's there and it's happening in the mitochondria, like bang buster. So it's about these metabolic processes turn over 200 times a day. So if you're not able to keep up with the carbs and the vitamins and the minerals and all that, then these metabolic processes that need to turn over more than 200 times a day are now slowing down.
And we're not, if you were to take our e-course, we tell you, how much food is appropriate for, an individual. And obviously there are carbohydrates involved, but we're not saying to go nuts on the processed carbs, right? So we only say 1 to 2 servings of whole, like a grain carb. And that's not even true for everyone. Some people do well without those. So everyone is unique and individual.
Can do a little bit more with grains. It just depends. So that depends on, your food sensitivities that you have, your activity level, because the more you exercise, the more, like especially doing weightlifting type or body weight exercises, you need carbohydrates for that, because that's how that metabolic process goes. Okay. So,
and just really quickly, because I know there's somebody out there that might who's familiar with ketosis.
Yeah. So if you can, so with ketones and exercise, it's really best for more endurance types of exercise, because that's a slow and steady thing. And so you can slow and steady burn over ketones, which is using fats as your fuel source. But with things like weightlifting, sprinting, and all those sort of things, which actually has major benefits for the brain. It releases oxytocin, which is what makes us feel so good. Does all the other things. Anyways, that is a carb pathway. And so it requires carbohydrate and phosphate. And so those go together, and then that allows for that quick burst. But it's also really short. And it requires a lot of energy to go do it. So that's why, those activities are not long standing, is because it is short. So think about like pictures of marathon runners, like elite marathon runners, and then think about pictures of what sprinters look like, and their muscular distribution is very different. So sprinters tend to be very muscular from that short burst of energy, and whereas marathon runners tend to be very lean and sort of sometimes I think very deficient looking. So.
Good to know. So on to myth number 4, which is fat makes you fat.
It doesn't.
So if you're actually familiar with the keto diet, then, then you would know this isn't true.
Yeah.
But I think most people, we have a lot of people come in, who are not familiar with this. This isn't wide known necessarily. And so we have to talk about this a little bit, which is fat is really your friend, no matter what you subscribe to in the way that you eat or what's best for you. All of us need fat because it supports your hormones and neurotransmitters.
Yes, you cannot make any of your sex hormones without, and this also includes things that help control your blood pressure. You can't make them without cholesterol. Cholesterol is the backbone behind all these hormones. And then then there's vitamin D, which is a hormone like vitamin, and it is fat soluble based. And our neurotransmitters are fat based. So we can't do these without fat. And so then every single one of our cells has this little ring. It's called the phospholipid bilayer, and that is all fats on the outside. And so the quality of our fat is what shapes our cell membranes, which then determines how well our cells communicate with each other.
And if we don't get enough fat, here is what can happen.
Brain fog, mental health issues is a big thing. So if you could get omega-3 fatty acids into people with mental health issues, then you often can drastically improve those. Hormone imbalances, like I mentioned before, and how it leads to insulin resistance is usually people that are eating very low fat diets or eating too many carbohydrates. And so then they are having insulin resistance. So that is definitely a problem, and which then can lead to weight gain. So, I mean, this can be said for any nutrient. You have too much of it and it will flood the system, which will lead to weight gain. But we have to have this nice little balance of our nutrients.
Well, and here's kind of an interesting example. So I used to think if my diet's too low on fat, you would know if you don't have your period or something, which is a very extreme example.
Yeah.
But if you are just kind of riding, on the fence there, you still might experience
that's
things.
PMS. So too low of diets can you will have PMS, and you're more likely to have breast pain and mood around that. So those low level things really do. People are oh. Everybody just assumes that we're just, PMS, it is natural, but it's also what drives that is an underlying inflammatory process that's natural, but it goes out of, it gets a little bit overexcited when we don't have all the nutrients that we need. So PMS really should be kind of a little bit more minor than most of us experience it.
Yeah. So if you have any hormonal issues, even acne or, whatever, think about this. Get your avocado in, eat some olives, get some high quality oils to use in your salad dressings or
nuts
whatever.
And seeds if you can tolerate them. Lots of different
wild
ways.
Caught fish.
Coconut.
Our last and final myth is myth number 5, which is delicious food is unhealthy. I really just wanted to address this because it comes back to the sustainability of quote unquote being on a diet. So a lot of times people think if I'm going to be on a diet, I can only have a steamed chicken breast with steamed broccoli, maybe a squirt of lemon and a pinch of salt or something.
Yeah,
and
it's real plain.
You might be able to stomach that. It doesn't taste bad, right? But over time you find that you are actually deficient of pleasure.
Ooh, yeah.
And you're deficient of flavor and interest. And quite frankly, what we say.
So then we're just kind of
yeah.
So it's sad, which then is then we lose the joy behind eating, which then the body's
Yeah. And in our e-course, we actually ask, how does your relationship with your food reflect your relationship with how you live your life? And so long-term, boringness with food can make you a boring person, essentially, or you'll just feel bored.
Or you have a lack of, luster or passion in things that can, bleed over that way. So lots of different ways, but, just because it's delicious doesn't mean it's unhealthy. So I think people are under the assumption that it has to have a lot of fat, salt, and sugar for it to be delicious. But, we don't agree.
Yeah. So diets often fail because they're boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've had people who are like, I found so much success with Jenny Craig, or, these like prepackaged food type diets. And they are like, I stuck with it. I ate the food. Oh, what's the other one that like says it's keto, but it's not?
Ideal protein.
Yeah. So people might succeed on these for a couple months, but then they're like, okay, I'm so over this.
So
and then they don't know what to do in between. So you go from these like prepackaged diet meals to ordering pizza and Chinese every night because you don't have an understanding of what should be really healthier in between.
A lot of things with those people, like those programs, one is restriction and through portion control. And so then they sort of think it's just about portion control, which goes to the calorie myth, which really isn't working either. So, but yeah. And then, people just get tired of their steamed broccoli and chicken breast.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it doesn't have to be this on and off. Does it require a little thinking, a little bit of changing, a little bit of effort? Absolutely. But in the long run, it's totally worth it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to give a little side note in here about hyper-palatable foods. And so what happens is that things that taste really delicious, that have all the sugars and fats and carbohydrates and, have like all these crazy flavors, and you got to put 20 ingredients in it. So actually what can happen is it can drive the brain to sense, extra calories, or it overstimulates the brain in a particular way, which can allow us to hold on to food more. So if we're eating a little bit more basic, but not as basic as only steamed, foods, like you can still add seasonings and, a little bit of oil and, seeds and all kinds of stuff, but simple, and it not be like this crazy, 20-step thing from a French restaurant, then the body is able to recognize that and can process that a little bit more. So having an excess of hyperpalatable foods where they're so many components, particularly with fats and carbohydrates and things like that, can lead to a miscue in the brain and weight gain. So
that's why fast food's addictive. And I remember when we were in culinary school too, we went to a school that emphasized, food is medicine. And a lot of times we would make these dishes and we'd be like, wow, this is really bland.
Right.
But over time, our palates changed.
Yeah, they totally
and so
change. Now
when I eat something like a Frito, I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. It really gets you going. So, not everything is supposed to be the most exciting meal on the planet. There is supposed to be some joy in the simplicity of foods and what they represent. And so it's just like little things that can bring out their flavor is what we're going for. But hyperpalatable food does rewire the brain in a particular way that makes us, one, desire them more, and two, makes us metabolize them differently.
So your new truth is you don't have to sacrifice flavor or even pleasure to eat well. And that nourishment is holistic. So not only are we just looking at what we're putting in our body, it's, the environment of how we're eating it, where we're eating it, who are we eating it with, how was it made, where did the food come from? There's all these other components. And then also, how do you feel, and like maybe what phase are you in right now within like life in general? Right. So there's a lot to take in.
Yep. Okay, so we've just blasted you with all kinds of stuff really quickly. Yeah. So tell us how you feel right now. Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you feeling excited? Are you feeling like you
triggered?
Oh, triggered, contemplative. So tell us how you're feeling. I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
This was one of my favorite webinars we've done.
Good. Yeah, I love this topic. I think it's so needed. And obviously we are aware that just throwing this information out at you is not going to like change your life right away, because this is a real practice and a learning curve. And so
yeah, I'm not rocking it right now. I'm doing my best, but it's kind of a cuckoo time. And so I'm just like, keep telling my body, hey guys, we like keep it together till next Friday. And then after that, you're getting all the love again. But
so it's mindset.
Yeah. But I'm not eating fast food.
Right.
So
yes,
I'm just not eating all of the things like I normally do. I'm just kind of doing my survival meals until next Friday.
Well, and that's why some of these life skills that we teach our clients we use these, right?
Yeah.
So I actually know like, oh, I have, these classes on Mondays and Thursday nights and I'm out of the house all day. And like, am I going to go out to eat for
she
3
comes
meals
with
a
grocery bag full of food. She's like, I got my lunch, I got my snacks, I got my dinner.
Which I really should just be doing every day for lunch.
Right.
And I started doing that, which is awesome. But, we have to rely on these things and say like, no, I do have control over my choices and I'm going to take full responsibility for my choices. So on that same thread, like if I'm like, you know what, I do not feel like doing any work. I'm not going to meal plan. I don't care. I'm not going to the grocery store. I still have to own that and say, you know what, I made this choice. And so I have to live with the, thing with it. And so, So yeah, all this sounds good, right? But does it really quote unquote work?
It does. It's for real. I live by it, and it totally works. And we have clients that we see one-on-one, and this works with. And so we know it's not possible for us to see all of you one-on-one. So that's why we're putting it into a little e-course. So that way you can learn on your own and practice and still be able to get support from a group, which when you're here one-on-one, like we don't have group support. And so that's why I really love the group so much, because I posted something this morning into our group that was one of my survival meals from last night, but it was full of nutrition.
I haven't even seen that yet.
And it was full of nutrition and everything like that. And so I just show you, this is what my real life looks like. And it took me 10 minutes to prep it, and then the rest went into the oven. And so easy as pie. And so we post our own success and failures, and then everybody else does, or like shares tips. Somebody posted like a meal planning app that they really liked. And so we're all kind of there for each other, and it just builds over time. And so we really enjoy the Facebook group.
So if you walk away from anything from here, I want you to know there's the old way of dieting, which is restriction and frustration.
Yeah.
And I do want to just add note here. Like, it's not like Beth and I walk through our lives every single day like, I am amazing and perfect. Like, we still have down days and days where we're like, am I doing the right thing? But because we have the knowledge and the practice behind us, if you're familiar with yoga at all, it's kind of the same thing where it's like, I'm just going to go back to the mat. I'm going to go back to my practices of knowing what I need to do. And it's just like a low and slow kind of thing.
And so, so yoga teaches you that. And then, so we are kind of, thinking about the food in the same way is that there are the ebbs and the flows of life. And we have to eat in order to survive. So there's ebbs and flows with it. So, as long as you're, going with it, and then you're not, quoting yourself as being bad or being on or off the wagon and doing this thing, then it really frees up so much in your mind space and energy and everything. So
and you become a positive influence, not only in your own life, but to others around you, which is cool.
And we need all of that we can get.
Yeah. So if you are dieting, or if you've been frustrated with dieting, we really, really would like to invite you to come join us for this nourishing practice. And so this is our crash course in a new way of eating. And this is where we give you all the details, right? So we talk about how do we change our mindset? What I say this in quotes, what should I be eating? Because again, there's no one way to eat. We're not selling a diet, but we
give you a general framework, and then based on your context, you get to adapt it. So, and your context includes disease states or food sensitivities or foods that make your blood sugar go crazy or not, that sort of thing. So we just give some general guidelines on what health looks like.
It's a really clear guideline. And so if okay, as long as I'm not, if I'm staying near this guideline, I know that I am achieving health and, can manage my weight or whatever. Yeah. So it's like something that I know I can always come back to, and it's not restrictive.
Right.
Because, if I can have grains, my body allows that, and I should choose to eat them, then I know I can have 1 or 2 a day. It's not like, oh, you can't have certain things. So I think that's really important, is to not over restrict.
Right.
And so just really quickly, we're going to cover what we would teach you if you wanted to join us for the course. So in the first day, it's a 5-day course, right? So we unleash new information and videos.
We just hammer you at it.
It looks just like this, like what you're watching right now. This is what the course looks like, the videos look like. So in that first week, we call it Awaken because we're really talking about awakening you to changing your mindset. And so it's learning how to have a positive relationship with your body and food, understanding what mind-body nutrition even is. And then we talk about, how do we reset our digestive fire and increase metabolism while not being on a diet.
Right. Then we go into the second day, which is releasing. So this one, beware, has emotions that you have to feel. But you deepen your relationship with your body and your health goals. This was actually one of our favorites. It used to be at the end, and now we've moved it to the beginning because we think it's so important.
Yes.
So we learn how to let go what's no longer serving you. So we dive more deeply into some of the concepts we've talked about today, and we release those old thought patterns. And can tell you that releasing those old thought patterns is unbelievably helpful and amazing.
It's truly a freeing experience.
Yep.
And we don't even know how to explain this because everyone does this differently. We do this like live journaling exercise, and everyone has, their own answers and their own experience and their own beliefs.
Right.
And so, or what was passed down to them. And
this is your aha moment.
Yeah. So it allows you to identify, what are my current beliefs? Are they serving me? How can I think differently? But we actually show you how to do it. So it's really cool.
And then we talk about nourishment. So we'll learn what nourishes you. And then we talk about more about nutrition and food quality. And then which I am like harp over and over again is this on and off the wagon thing, because a lot of people use good or bad or on and off, just like they talk about alcoholism and things like that, or he's on the wagon or off the wagon, but they refer to it in food, and food just doesn't work that way, I don't think.
Yeah.
So we talk about this.
Yeah. And this is where you'll learn, the parameters of food that are serving you.
Yep.
And then finally, number 4 is connect. And so this is the fun. I say this is the Beth module.
It is the Beth module.
You may have noticed how she interjected with sciencey knowledge. This is her place to shine. And I asked her to do this module because I think we learn these, these words, right? Detox, inflammation, leaky gut, but it's like, you're learning this online from who knows who.
Yeah.
And so I'm having Beth kind of break it all down for you.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a good one.
Yeah. And I think it's just important to know how your body works. It might sound like, why do I care about this?
You need to know how your body works.
It's empowering.
It's super empowering. It allows you to make really good choices for yourself when you go to a doctor or are making lifestyle choices. And it helps you to age in a way that gives you quality of life. Because if you're not sure how the body works, then you can't age with quality of life. And that's really what this is about. Like living to 90 in a wheelchair is not the same as living to 70, living every day with vibrancy. So, life extension versus quality is like one of my passions for sure.
Yeah, she's 70. I'm just kidding.
But I am almost 39. I am almost 39. I'm 70.
Oh, I just realized we left out the 5th module.
Oh no.
So really quick, there is a 5th day. I left out this slide, which is so important. And this is the most important. It's called practice.
Yeah.
And so the practice module is meal planning. So we'll do that together. It's a grocery store tour, which we do like on live video, which is really cool. And so it's actually like, okay, now that I've learned all this, how do I actually integrate it into my life?
Right.
So you get to do that too. So this is all that you will create if you decide to do the e-course, which is a practice for long-term vibrant health.
Yes.
More energy, which we truly believe, like if you feel well, then you have energy to go do other things that you love, or, giving back to your own community in a certain way.
One of our personal mottos with Path Nutrition is when you feel well, you do well for your community. And so we affect change through one person at a time, then that person, goes out to their community. And so this is all about just bringing us all up.
It sounds idyllic, but think about it. If you're sick or in the hospital, you can't do anything for yourself or anyone. So the better you feel, the more you can do.
Yep.
And then also just self-confidence. You know, we know what it feels like when your pants are tight or you're just having one of those down days and you feel bad about yourself. And this can really help you. I'm not saying it's going to erase those days, but you'll absolutely know how to,
there will be a better train of thought going on. That tornado will,
it's a much easier spiral. So understanding just what's best for you, because you know, again, there is no blanket diet that's right for you. So the course is just instant access to video lessons. You get instant access to group support. So like if you join the course today, you're in, and we can start talking right away. So it's 5 lessons in 5 days, and we also provide you like worksheets, which are like journaling exercises, and then these helpful tools and guides that, you know, support this learning. And again, it's 24/7 with lifetime access. So whatever time you're available in your life, as long as you like make the time for it, it's easy. I regrettably admit, I mean, the whole course is like 6 hours. Like on a Saturday, I'm pretty sure I've crushed like an entire season of a TV show in the same amount of time.
I watched that 6 hours worth of continuing ed videos last night. So
it can be done, you know, whether you want to cram it into one or spread it out, it's totally up to you. And so we also do these group webinars that are only for people who are in the e-course. So it's a lot like this, but it's more diving into
and
really
then you get to ask
stuff.
Questions. So we give you the feature to unmute or to talk or to type your question. And so,
We're also, like Beth already mentioned, we have this, you know, great support group with Facebook, but if you're not on Facebook, you can also ask questions or get group support within the e-course platform. And then, surprise, Beth doesn't even know this.
No, I do. I know about this. I know what's going on.
We're offering this fast action bonus. And so if you guys buy the e-course, if you decide to join us for this awesome e-course, like within the next hour, then we're going to give away this 45-minute coaching session, which is honestly like worth more than the entire course. So this is a really cool offer. I say it's a coaching session because this is not like an intake appointment for becoming a member or working one-on-one. This is like, you know, maybe we could do a meal planning call like one-on-one, or do something, you know, that is related to the
or a very personal thing that you're stuck with that you're not maybe ready to share with the group for group support. And so there's lots of different ways that you could use the 45-minute coaching call. Or you're like, well, I think I have food sensitivities, but I'm not really sure how to go about that, or you know, just like some little things, and so we can kind of get you in the direction of a right path on where to go, or get you unstuck somewhere.
Right. Or if you realize like maybe you are currently managing like a autoimmune, you know, system, and you know, in 45 minutes, we're not going to be able to like reverse that, but you can definitely ask Beth a ton of really awesome questions. So it is a lot of value, I promise. And so I know you're like, well, how much is this? Always the question, right?
Always the question.
So, you know, a business coach is like, you got to show them the total value. And so these numbers is what I'm showing you. And quite frankly, I honestly, I think this number is even lower than what it should be, because we're giving you literally a ton of information. This is stuff that it takes months to go over with clients one-on-one. But today, literally, we're only charging you $97. And I know that I sound like a car salesman, but we made this accessible to people because we really just want you to learn this. I want people to do this and to share it and to practice this work just to make the world a better place. Because I'm tired of the self-abuse that women put on each other or on themselves more often. You know, and just this diet culture. I just really want it to go away. So I'm willing to to do this for $97.
Yeah, one of the things that has been bugging me like crazy on Instagram is that Self Magazine posts like all these like funny things about real life and health and exercise and stuff like that. And I get it. But then once a month they show the cover of their new magazine, and it's some, you know, of course, teeny, you know, it's like some person in their bikini and this other thing and all these like splashy things. And I'm like, but this one doesn't match like all the previous, you know, 29 days of your posts about real life exercise and, you know, diet, you know, nutrition and things like that. And it is so frustrating to me because it's like this thing. It's like, well, it's still not good enough.
It's slowly integrating. I mean, I think the media is trying to change, but they also know that sex sells and, you know, this fake
skinny
stuff
sells.
So we're trying to change that. And so again, your fast action bonus is this like 45-minute coaching session with Beth or I or both of us, if you can find a time slot for that.
We are very funny together.
Yeah. And so literally everything, including the bonus, is $97 if you decide to go to this link below. So I'm gonna leave this up here for a second, because it will give you an hour to decide if you want to, do this. And no pressure. If you guys don't want the bonus, or you're like, I need more time to think about this, the course is always $97.
Yep.
And so you just won't get the 45-minute coaching session. But this is like our official launch day of the course. It's going to be on our website. Hopefully you take it, you love it, you share it with people, but we are really proud of it.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So I'm going to change this slide. So if you want, you can, snap a photo of the link so that you can get in there. Also, if you're like, well, I don't know, I'm not sure, I'm on the fence, that's okay. It is literally risk-free.
Yeah.
So you actually could watch the entire course if you did it in the full week, and then you would get your money back if you hated it. But the stipulation is that you have to turn in all of your journals, like written in.
Wow.
Or have like a really good reason. But
Yeah.
I want you to actually do the work. So if you can actually watch the videos and do it, and then you're like, you know what, this didn't do anything for me, I will give you 100% of your money back. No questions asked.
There you go.
So
Beat that.
yeah, I mean, get access now, right? So go do it.
Yeah.
And if you guys have questions, please, this is your time to get in on this chat box.
Yeah, because we still have a few minutes
Yeah.
before the webinar is over. So if you have any questions, please ask us, and we love to answer them.
Yeah. So if you go to this link, it'll take you to like a really fancy sales page, which will also give you some more information about the course. And then you'll get taken to a order form that looks something like this. And if you guys need help or have questions that you don't want to ask in the chat box to the group, please email us at info@pathnutrition. And these are just some things that people have written to us about the course. Obviously, we're proud of it. And so one of my favorite reviews is the one on the top left, right? So it says, this course has become a moment in my life that a shift occurred. I can feel it in my bones. This truly was a key to a new way of life, and its strong groundwork. And I'm so thankful.
And what was so great about this one was that was like our very first e-course. And it was,
Yeah.
It wasn't as good as our current one, but it was still like the same information. It was just, not quite as polished. And so, we still are able to affect change in folks. You just have to be willing to accept the information and be willing to apply it and to make changes in your life.
Yeah. Well, I don't see any questions in the chat box. It looks like there are 6 of you still with us. And thank you so much, Daniela, Jackie, Jen, and whoever else is still here. So it looks like everyone's kind of out of here. But we really appreciate you joining us. I hope you found some value in learning what you learned today.
Yeah.
And we will see you again next time. I don't know when we'll do another one. It might not be until the new year. Because we have Thanksgiving in a couple weeks, and then Beth is out of town. I'll be out of town. So
we got the holiday season coming up.
So
why don't you learn some stuff to survive through the holidays?
Yeah, you guys, this is 5 days. So you could actually learn all of this and even practice it before Thanksgiving. So that's something to think about.
Oh, that's totally true.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see you later.
Bye guys.